and go ahead and tell us about your revised budget recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Paul Schnell, the Minnesota Department of Corrections. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes just to explain the governor's revised budget recommendation for the agency. Members, there's a fact sheet in your materials that outlines the underlying reasons for cost pressures that have created a budget deficiency at the Department of Corrections in the current fiscal year. As the third largest agency on state government, the DOC has ever-shifting costs and is heavily impacted by inflationary pressures, particularly as it relates to food and utilities expenditures. Our budget is also heavily staffing focused, and workforce stabilization challenges have put unforeseen pressures on our budget, as well faster than expected growth in the incarcerated population. For context, in fiscal year 2022, the DOC had its budget slightly reduced overall, and in 2023, the appropriation went up just slightly. This was in large part due to the decline of our prison population during COVID and the court backlog. However, the rapid increase in population, as well as the increase in inflationary costs and the staffing crisis we face, have left us with a $12.6 million deficiency in the current biennium. Subsequently, the governor's revised budget recommendation includes that $12.6 million request, which would be for this biennium. Another addition to the governor's recommendation for funding is funding for in-house virtual court hearing coordination. Key partners in this court have included the courts, and we are making virtual court hearings a permanent practice. Managing virtual court hearings in our 11 prison facilities has been a significant undertaking. Effectively, we are creating courtrooms serving all 87 counties at our correctional facilities across the state. Currently, virtual court hearings are largely coordinated and scheduled by a record staff and case managers across the facilities. We rely on the limited time of already overburdened case managers and officers to ensure hearings operate as intended by the courts. Case managers are spending considerable time facilitating Zoom court hearings and monitoring those hearings, which takes them away from their regular coursework. Correction officers are needed to ensure the safety and security and are not always the appropriate staff to answer questions for individuals during that process. The requested funding of $500,000 per year ongoing will help the department invest in needed technology and additional staff to ensure that we can accommodate the demands of court hearings in this virtual environment. And finally, members, you also heard a standalone bill last week, House File 2388, to create a clemency review commission in support of the work of the Minnesota Board of Pardons. The proposal is also part of the governor's revised budget recommendation, which includes a cost of $986,000 per year to fund and staff and process the work of the commission. It also helps support victim services and all of the work related to outreach and education on clemency. With that, Madam Chair, I would stand for any questions.